Hi, I'm Heidi Secord, State President of Pennsylvania Farmers Union, and I'm here with Jane Alexander today to talk about Farmers Union, the history of Farmers Union, and the importance of Farmers Union for farmers today. Jane, how did you get involved with Farmers Union?
Jim McHale, then, who was Secretary of Agriculture, is the one that organized Farmers Union in Pennsylvania. He thought it was a good thing for farmers to be organized, and he started out in the northwest part of the state, and then of course he got appointed Secretary of Agriculture. But Jim Patton, who had started National Farmers Union, had liked working with Jim. I don't know what the reason was, but he came to live in Harrisburg and worked with us in the department. And it was great because he knew about how the farmers in other states handled their problems through his work with Farmers Union. And so it was a great help to have him there. He also still maintained his contacts in Washington. So I was also, one of my parts of my job was also to be the assistant to Patton. So I got to travel with him to Washington, and when he went out in speaking engagements and the like, I went along with Jim Patton. And of course, he talked a lot about the various problems facing agriculture around over the United States. And when he would go to Washington, of course, he went to the department, and I got to know the people down there. He would go down to discuss the farmers' issues in Washington and take me along. He felt that we should have more interchange between the countries as far as breeds of cattle, for instance. It was interesting because not only did Patton address current issues, but he constantly reminded us that the basic issues of farming, like how to fertilize and when to have harvest, the effects of the climate, everything about farming hasn't changed. And so when the Farmers Union had their national convention in Harrisburg, he was one of the principal speakers, and I asked him about what was his speech. Had he written his speech? And he said, didn't have to. He pulled out a speech that he had made about 5 years before, and he was going to use the same speech with just a few updates, just to indicate that the problems of farms go on and on and on. And
he could probably take that speech out today and say it again.
He could say it again, yes, because the basics of farming remain the same.
In this time, you're involved in Farmers Union, you're involved with the Department of Agriculture. I remember reading that in the first year that Jim McHale and Farmers Union was here, that he was able to get 1,200 members in 1 year.
Yes.
How did you guys do that?
Well, it's just because the state is divided into 7 districts, and he had the people who headed each of the districts to get involved with Farmers Union, and then of course they encouraged the farmers in that area that they needed to get into Farmers Union. The programs that Farmers Union had in their meetings was basically information programs. They weren't social. There was some social, but it was information programs that would be helpful to the farmers. And he made a big point of that.
What do you think is the most important part of Farmers Union's work?
The unity that they can show their representatives in Congress as to any issue that affects farmers. So the only way for the farmer to get that is to get organized, and Farmers Union is a good way to do it, because when we have an issue importing or exporting farm crops, Farmers Union is there to express an opinion and contact the congressmen. The majority of the congressmen are not farmers, so they need to be educated constantly. Most people really don't consider where their food comes from. They really don't. They think it grows on the farmer market stand, the way that some of them act.
How do you think we should be approaching climate change in terms of agriculture? And how
we have
that's
to admit that it's happening. We can't just believe it's not going to happen, because it is happening. And we should take the steps to either slow it down, which people seem to be reluctant to do, or try to adjust our programming to meet the climate.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Farmers Union today?
Maintaining their membership, because farmers are busy, and now, of course, you don't have as many inherited farms, and so you see a lot of young people leaving the farms. It used to be they'd inherit the farm and continue to live, and of course in the various farm publications it gives stories about inherited farms, but they're not the normal anymore.
How do you think we can keep engaging young people?
I think that is a difficult thing in any field these days, because they have so many distractions. Everybody has those little things you hold in your hand that tell you whether it's raining in Hong Kong or and they're so distracted by everything else that even if they live on a farm, they may not give it the priority it needs to be successful.
What do you think Jim Patton's response would be?
I think he would be very upset if he could see today's, let's say, agriculture generally, because you have to look at Congress, because they're the ones, and the president, they're the ones that do the tariffs and, of course, affect pricing and licensing and so forth. And if they aren't educated, the farmers aren't going to win. They have to be educated.
Did you talk a lot about agricultural policy with past presidents?
Oh, I've been in the White House with every president since Truman. I mean, some of them didn't care. I mean, they wouldn't say it, but they really weren't sufficiently knowledgeable about agriculture, and they didn't develop a major interest. They had to resort to the Secretary of Agriculture to guide them, but they really weren't interested.
Do you have any thoughts about the current administration and where we're going?
I'll be very honest with you. I don't think that Trump knows enough about agriculture to work with the Agriculture Department, and I don't think he recognizes the damage that's done to the farmers, particularly with these tariffs and so on that interfere with their marketing, because the countries aren't going to pay. And when you have Russia over there that is so eager to seize these markets, we've got to be competitive. I think the important thing is for the farmers to be organized, and of course Farmers Union to take, and they have been taking firm positions in regard to these various issues. And of course the president has been the president of Farmers Union. I think the little publication they do every month is very helpful. But I think too that there isn't enough publicity in the newspapers, the general news, to educate people about farming and agriculture. People don't realize they do have to eat, and they ought to protect or assist the people who make that possible. So the educational part of it extends to the general public as well. And I would think that wherever possible, wherever the opportunity presents itself to a group of farmers in a community, if there's any news about farming in that community, they should get it into the local paper, really, so that the people themselves know what's going on.
How do you get people to hear your voice when your voice is...
If you can figure out how, let me know. Because you talk to people sometimes and, they're very, they talk and talk and talk. And then you ask him one question. Did you vote in the last election? No, I haven't. I'm not registered to vote. Well, then why are you shooting off your mouth? Because if you sign a letter to your legislator, or particularly local people, and they go to the county office and find out you're not even registered to vote, they're not going to get excited about what you say. I learned a rule from the guy who was a longtime congressman from up around Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, and he always called me on it too when I was out campaigning, maybe not for myself, but for somebody else. He said, Jane, you should never go to any event where you don't shake hands with everybody there and say hello to them and to have a few words with them, but shake your hands with everybody there. And he did. He did. And when he got up to speak, they listened because he took the time to shake their hands. It's the personal contact that counts. No question about it. And that's what I think Farmers Union is endeavoring to bring to the action of agriculture, is the personal contact.
Relationships.
The relationship. Because if a member of Farmers Union and they say something, you're a member, you're going to listen. It means a lot.